Welcome to the KBA Vendor Viewpoint podcast, where we bring together Kentucky bankers and the industry's top vendor solutions to discuss important topics that affect your bank. Here's your host, KBA Director of Membership, Products, and Services, Selina Parrish.
Today, we are excited to be featuring KBA-endorsed Profit Resources Incorporated, but better known as PRI. For over 35 years, PRI has helped KBA members improve performance and profitability to better serve your customers. With me today is Lokey and Bill Zumvorde with PRI, and also KBA member Wade Berry, President and CEO with Farmers Bank and Trust in Marion. Wade is a former KBA chairman and currently serves on the board of the Federal Home Loan Bank of Cincinnati. Thank you for being with us today. Please tell our audience how PRI has made a difference for Farmers Bank and Trust that resulted in real quantifiable change to improve the bottom line for your institution.
Thank you, Selina. As Selina said, we're an endorsed business partner of the KBA. For KBA members who may not be familiar with us, PRI helps banks with income, expense, and efficiency improvements, including interchange enhancement, system evaluation and contract negotiation, bank-wide process and profit improvement engagements, strategic planning, and more. Over the last several years, we've completed or have in process more than 85 projects with 39 KBA member banks. Wade, I want to thank you again for joining us today. Can you tell us about Farmers Bank and Trust Company and give us an update on what's been going on at the bank?
I sure can, Bill. Things are going great, and good to see you and Shaw today. For listeners who may not be familiar with Farmers Bank, we were founded in 1899 in the small town of Marion, where we're still headquartered today. Marion is the county seat of Crittenden County, and I always have to clarify that we are not in Marion County. That's in central Kentucky between Louisville and Lexington. We're in western Kentucky. We're on the Ohio River just across from Illinois. Counties around us include Union, Webster, Caldwell, Lyon, and Livingston. So that's kind of where we are. Today, we have 10 offices ranging from around Salem and Livingston County as far east as Bowling Green and Warren County. 10 offices, total assets approaching the $800 million mark. I'm thankful that we had our best year ever in 2025, and 2026 is off to a great start.
Awesome.
Thank you, Wade. In addition to organic growth, Farmers did an acquisition in 2019. How did that impact the bank?
Shaw, the acquisition you're referencing was a complete game changer for us. In September 2019, we acquired First State Bank. It was based in Central City, Kentucky. Many of the KBA's members and listeners may remember former KBA Chairman Mike Mercer. Mike was the CEO of First State Bank. He still serves on our board today. So buying First State was a really unique opportunity for us because they were a healthy, growing bank. They were in great markets. Their home market of Muhlenberg County was doing very well, had deposits in Clean County, and then they had an upstart location in Bowling Green, which is obviously a hot market in Kentucky. That acquisition doubled our number of branches from 5 to 10. It doubled our asset size. We were nearly the same size when we closed as First State. When we closed, we were about $210 million in assets. They were about $160 million. By the end of that year, we were around $375 million in assets. And then today, less than 6 years later, we're starting to approach the $800 million mark. So the bottom line is the acquisition went incredibly well, but there are always challenges that come with growing so quickly. And that's ultimately what led us to PRI.
Well, I know we met at a couple of KBA events, Wade, and then I came and visited you here in this very office. And you said you tend to be skeptical of vendors, kind of the old overpromise and underdeliver problem. So what broke down those walls and allowed you to engage PRI for a major project?
Well, to be fair, Bill, I'm kind of skeptical of a lot of things. It's not just vendors. So, but as it relates to PRI, that's the question you asked. I guess a few things helped me get past my natural skepticism. One is I've just gotten to know you personally very well through KBA events, and that relationship meant a lot, still does. I'd also spent some time with Mike Holt and Mike's dad, Tim. Of course, those are some of your owners. And I just sort of developed an appreciation for how they did business. They were low key, they were expert, but low key. They weren't pushy, kind of a family deal. It sort of impressed me. But more than anything, it was the debit card interchange project we did with PRI that convinced me you guys were the real deal. That's when I realized you really do have expertise that can make a difference for our bank. So the debit card interchange is what led to the bigger project.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. In 2020, our payments team evaluated your bank's debit card brand and looked for opportunities for incentives. We looked at your PIN network and we're looking for ways to boost your interchange income. Like all of our PRI consultants, our payments team members began their career as bankers, just like Shaw and I did. The team members then went on to join organizations like MasterCard or Visa, and they worked for various card processing companies. So they had real practical expertise. Can you tell us about the results of the card project for farmers?
Sure. Well, first of all, that project took place not long after we acquired First State Bank. And it really did, as I referenced earlier, show us the kind of value PRI could bring to the table. As you mentioned, the project covered both our debit card brand and our PIN network, but the debit card incentive contract was the big one. Those contracts are extremely complex and but the good news is they can be really financially rewarding for a bank like ours. PRI helped us negotiate the contract, and your team walked us through every step of the implementation process that it took to become a principal member with our card brand. So negotiating complex contracts with a company the size of MasterCard or Visa would have certainly been intimidating for us on our own. It's not like we do that very often. Mm-hmm. But PRI gave us a deeply experienced team to lead it. They made themselves available at any time, and they were so detail oriented. They seemed to not miss anything. So as a result of that project, we received a substantial upfront bonus from our card brand. I remember being shocked that we got it. It was just like Christmas came early. Since then, we've received annual digital marketing payouts based on our business volumes with them, as well as other pricing improvements. But we would not have known to negotiate for those benefits without PRI's expertise. So it was incredibly impressive. It grew our relationship with PRI and really our belief in what you can do.
Well, then in 2023, on the heels of that very successful debit card project, your bank asked us to perform an assessment to identify opportunities around your processes, org structure, and income. What prompted that request?
So at the time in 2023, we were in the range of 600 million in assets, which may not be a big bank, but it sure is a lot bigger than we were not long before it. We used to joke that we were like a couple of $200 million banks that crashed into each other. And but we were 600 million in assets. We were doing well. But in many ways, our org structure hadn't changed since we were a $200 million bank. So, we got twice as many branches. We're spread out. We've got half our branches are new team members to us. So the First State acquisition went incredibly well in terms of employee retention, customer retention. It just couldn't have gone any better. But we were still running two banks in a lot of ways. So we had dozens of grandfathered checking accounts, effectively two sets of HR policies, and a whole host of other things that needed to be consolidated and improved. So when we got a bit overwhelmed with that, knowing we needed changes, I remembered our old friends at PRI from the debit card project and gave you a call.
And we sure appreciate it.
Well, that's me too.
So PRI came in and performed an assessment to identify improvement opportunities for the bank. After we reviewed the results together, Farmers engaged us for a full bank-wide performance enhancement project. And we always start those projects with a data analysis phase. So we did that. And then in January of 2024, right after the data analysis, our team came on site to really get to know your bank. We wanted to get to know your people, your culture, your strategic objectives. And then in a collaborative way, we developed recommendations to improve income, expenses, and efficiencies. Wade, what were some of the key results from that project?
Well, I'm glad you said key results because I think we approved or for implementation north of 250 recommendations. So I don't think this podcast is long enough to go through all of those. But I'll list several key results. And really, it's something I could go on and on about well beyond this. But from my perspective, standardizing our policies and procedures may have been the most important part of the PRI engagement. We knew going in that our policies and procedures were in need of standardization. We knew we needed PRI's help. But as the project got started and PRI's discovery process was underway, you guys dug so deeply into these operational details. You warned me that it would be that way, and I was still surprised and pleasantly so. And so, I mean, this was not surface level stuff. It's interesting. One thing I've heard over time asked as far as it might relate to PRI would be, isn't that just a bunch of stuff we could do if we had time, but maybe we need somebody from out of town with a briefcase to tell us what we already know? And the answer to that is absolutely not. It is way beyond that. I mean, you had a team of experts looking at detailed things well beyond what we didn't have the expertise to do it. Yes, we didn't have the time, but we also didn't have the expertise. So we knew some of our efficiencies, but your team uncovered efficiencies we weren't even aware of and helped us develop really practical solutions. And there was always implementation coaching, which was greatly appreciated. It wasn't just change this, it was here's how we've seen people change this, and here are the steps. And I mean a very detailed plan that we were included on. We would talk it out, we'd agree on a plan, put it in writing. Another important area PRI helped us with was just organizational alignment. Seeing the structure of our growing organization through the lens of external industry experts was such a big help. It encouraged our senior team to consider things we probably wouldn't have thought to consider on our own. We were open to change, and we all had our own skills and experience, but being open to change didn't mean we knew what to change and how to change it for sure. So a few of the many examples of PRI's recommendations when it comes to organizational alignment would be our branches, the role of our branches just really expanded greatly. Our office managers took on much more prominent roles. We created a couple of positions. PRI, some people think it's just about cost slashing. Certainly not true. We did a lot of things that added costs, but that we needed them. It wasn't just layering on. It was things we were missing that your team noticed. So we added a branch administrator role, branch training officer role. As I just mentioned, elevated the role of branch managers. PRI's recommendation in this area just really clicked with us. It was one of those things where once it was explained and we thought through it, it was a moment. We were like, you're right. We do need to give them. I mean, we weren't really all that big on goals, and we grew a lot, but we just evolved a lot, and it was with things that really made sense to us through this engagement. We also added a data analyst as a result of the PRI engagement. It isn't that we didn't ever factor data at all. Of course, on big, if it was an acquisition, loan and deposit pricing, loan decisions, all of that were data involved decisions. But we always wanted to be more that way with like operational decisions, staffing decisions, but we weren't quite sure how. So your team kind of helped us see, we already have the data here. You gave us some frameworks to consider, and it became a nice part of who we are and how we decide things going forward. So that was a huge benefit. I guess the last one I'll mention, and it was big. we tackled a complete redesign of our deposit products that you guys helped us with tremendously and are still helping. Post acquisition, we had more than 30 checking account types that had been grandfathered along for one reason or another. Can you imagine dealing with that at the new accounts desk? So PRI's recommendations focused on simplifying our product offerings. We knew we needed that, but also while doing their best to keep us from losing customers because we're very high loan to deposit. We typically run 100% plus loan to deposit. So we can't just jerk the wheel hard and make a bunch of deposit account changes and, end up with an even higher loan to deposit ratio. So that was a huge change and implementation still underway, but our consolidated product suite is a lot better for our customers and it's certainly better for the new accounts team. But I could go on and on, guys. It was a massive and important engagement. PRI's team really did a great job throughout the engagement, sharing insights from what they'd seen and working with the numerous other clients that you have, and then in just their own respective career experiences, because they were all career bankers. So it was incredibly helpful and really thought-provoking.
How did we work with your team on a day-by-day basis?
I'm glad you asked that, Bill, because that was one of the best parts of the engagement. I think the bankers in the audience, the listeners would all agree, the biggest fear bankers have about bringing someone in for an efficiency study is that our employees are going to hate it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to clam up. They're going to hate it. They're going to be scared, feel threatened. Maybe they're going to quit. And it's hard to find good ones these days. But that just couldn't be any further from what happened. I didn't think it was going to go poorly. I believed it would go fairly well, but I was shocked at how well it went as far as the employee relations with the PRI team. Our employees loved them. It was almost weird. Like, what? But what? Why is that? Well, number one, your team listened. Go figure, right? So your team actually listened. They weren't just coaching. They were sitting there listening. How do you do your job? Why do you do it that way? Oh, really? That's fascinating. So they listened. They got to know our people and our culture. So when our employees began to realize they were dealing with people who were listening to them, genuinely wanted to help them, our people couldn't stop talking. I mean, they just talk, everything they ever wanted to say to anybody. It's like they told these poor people from PRI, probably extended the engagement by a week, but they pretty much unloaded on the PRI team and told them everything they saw that was wrong. I think, and it's because they genuinely believed PRI was there to make things better. Now, in full disclosure, I had assured our employees in writing, and I recommend this to future clients, I assured them in writing that no one was going to lose their job over this engagement.
Yeah.
I told them there could be reassignments. I'm not saying there couldn't be something, but open up. You're not going to lose your job. We're going to benefit from it. And second, the fact, one unique thing with us, or somewhat unique, our employees collectively are our largest shareholders through the KSOP. So that was a huge help too, because when we talked about it, I told our employees, look, if even 2/3 of what PRI has told us that they can do really happens, it's a game changer. It's for you, for your kids, for your grandkids, because you're owners in this, and these things can have a real life-changing impact. And our people bought in, and PRI helped them buy in. So
that's great. So Wade, how does your relationship with PRI help farmers achieve its strategic objectives?
Well, Shaw, at the end of the day, we want to remain independent. We want to remain independent. But the deal is we have to earn that right. We don't just get to be independent because we want to be. We have to earn our independence. So that means being thoughtful, being efficient, being willing to change, doing whatever it takes to be consistently high performers. We also have to ensure that we're a rewarding investment for our shareholders. So doing those things is how we stay independent and in control of our own destiny. So PRI's approach fit right into that. They're thoroughly research-based. They don't make assumptions. The PRI team, they research, they interview, they analyze data, they ask probing questions. I mean, within just a few weeks on site, they They understood our bank at a level that made their recommendations credible and actionable. So every recommendation came with supporting analysis. Every recommendation came with an implementation roadmap to actually execute it. So I think that combination of just really deep understanding along with practical guidance, just it made all the difference for us. And we've reaped tremendous benefits, and we're going to for years to come.
Wade, thank you very much for your comments, and we really value our partnership with you and the bank. But that deep understanding and practical guidance you mentioned comes from something core to PRI. And as Bill mentioned earlier, all of our consultants have extensive experience as bankers that enables them to bring an understanding of the technicalities and challenges that your team faces on a daily basis. For our audience, some of you may not know this, but PRI actually got its start in Northern Kentucky in June of 1990 when Tim Holt launched the firm. And almost 36 years later, we're still a family-owned business dedicated to partnering with community banks to drive profitability and improve performance in a time when it's never been more critical. Tim is retired, and now his daughter, Mikkel Brady, and son, Mike Holt, have led PRI for the past 14 years. And today we are 60 team members strong and look forward to continuing to partner with Kentucky banks that are driving the economic growth in the communities they serve. Finally, we cannot end this podcast today without congratulating Bill, who after 12 and a half years with PRI and 40 years serving the industry is retiring at the end of April. Bill, you've had a distinguished career in the industry and have served the banks of Kentucky well. I know I speak on behalf of everyone at PRI, the KBA, and your clients in Kentucky and beyond. Thank you for your service and friendship, and we wish you the best in this next stage of your life.
Yeah, thanks so much, John. I have certainly enjoyed community banking and the relationships that have been built over the years, and appreciate the relationship with the KBA, certainly. I'm working on finalizing the plans for my last stage of life. However, those plans still have to go through review from my wife, Denise. So there could be further edits, but thank you again.
Well, I think Wade and I we understand that when we get to that point. But Wade, thank you again for joining Bill and me today and sharing your experiences with PRI. Again, we really appreciate your partnership. And Selina, back to you.
Thank you so much, Wade. Thank you, Shaw. And congratulations, Bill. Oh my gosh, that's a wonderful career that you've had at PRI. You will be missed. And thank you all for your time today, for providing excellent information for our audience. Additional information for PRI is available on KBA's website. Just go to kybanks.com where you'll find more information. And until next time, this podcast is a wrap. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. Good to see the three of you there.